And we are live. Welcome, everybody, to the Black Powder Podcast, the only real libertarian podcast with your host, one of your hosts, the only real libertarian, Marcus Matthews. And today I'm joined with my guy, Eric Parker, as usual. That's what I was about to say.
What's up?
And then we are very, very pleased to introduce the man, the myth, the legend, Tub.
Now, with that,
Tub. One word, one syllable.
I'm out. All right, y'all have a blessed night.
Yeah, Tub is coming on as our fourth host, and we're trying to do this thing like Wu-Tang. We want regional people that represent all the regions of the contiguous United States, plus Alaska and Hawaii, if possible, eventually. So we lost our resident Florida man when my good friend Eric Parker moved to North Carolina. So now he's a mid-Atlantic guy. And being that Florida is the only state in the union that has that moniker when it comes to their men, Florida man, we cannot, as good libertarians, move forward without a proper Florida man. So before we get started, because this is a current events episode, before we get started, Tub, why don't you tell the people your background, who you are, and introduce yourself to our adoring audience?
Okay, so first off, I am a horrible representative for Florida man. Okay?
I said that
because
beforehand.
Florida man is a little bit crazy and a whole lot of redneck, and I am neither of those. So, and I guess as we move forward, people would realize that, wait a minute, how is the pastor the new Florida man? I assure you that's not it. So, but what it is, though, how I do fit in with all the craziness that y'all have going on, and as we move forward, we will have a debate about who truly is the real libertarian. Okay, so we'll move forward down the line. We'll get to that. Now, with that, I will tell you. So my background is I've actually been a libertarian for over 18 years now. But I was the typical libertarian. I was a typical libertarian who knew all the things, complained a lot, but never did anything. So I kind of stayed out of all the mix of everything. I was just happy to not be part of the other two parties. And then finally, when I got active with Eric here in town, and the three of us, between him and I and Tracy, we all ran for city council. So we had that kind of brought us together, and that's what got us. I think, Eric, I think that's something that kind of got you active also, wasn't it?
Yeah. I mean, I was not doing anything with the party beforehand. I think I went to like a Spike Cohen rally in downtown Jacksonville. And I might have still been registered Republican then. I can't remember. And then I went and saw Joe Jorgensen in Tallahassee, but I didn't like get involved with the party before that. But then all the COVID nonsense made me start going to city council meetings. But I had officially left the Republican Party because of the way the Republicans treated the COVID nonsense in the state of Florida. And then I remember, I think me, you, and Tracy all met at this very first Libertarian meeting, and they had a guest speaker. If not, you and I met, and then the next time I met Tracy. I can't remember it. But that was like 4 years ago, right?
It has been 4 years, huh? It's been at least 4 years when you think about it.
That's crazy.
That's what got us involved. So during that, we went through that process, and we did that. And then I actually was on the ballot for lieutenant governor here in Florida also. So that kind of got me kind of spearheaded. Now we kind of stay a little bit active here locally. I'm still the vice chair for our local affiliate here in town. And I was, for a short time, if we will, I was vice chair of the Florida party also.
Nice.
Hey, I know we're got a lot to talk about, but Tub, maybe we save this for another episode, or you could air some laundry now. What happened? Why'd you resign from the vice chair of the Florida party? And, if you don't want to talk about it, I know I'm putting you on the spot. I did not mention this at all, but I think it's important and interesting, especially with the outcome and the results and everything that's happened since then.
So the thing that really kind of put it into place was we had an EC meeting down here in Florida, and one of the gentlemen decided that he was going to kind of underhandedly do some things. And the ultimate goal was to try to get the state to not support or be able to remove Chase Oliver for being the candidate. And so what they were doing now, here's the thing is they phrased it all the way to make it sound like that wasn't the goal or the intent, and that very much was. And the way they went about it was, I don't know how long you want me to take this, but you brought it up. So what happened is we had a number of seats that stayed open for months. We'd have our monthly meetings, and nobody ever cared. Nobody wanted a part of the positions. Then all of a sudden that night, we filled 4 positions that had been sitting open that nobody wanted to be a part of. And then once all those were in place, now it was time to vote about whether or not they were going to pass that motion about they want to petition the Libertarian Party, the LNC, to go back and see if everybody was true delegates. But the way they went about it was just pretty underhanded overall. And so for me personally, I know some people would refer to as rage quit, which maybe I did rage quit. I don't know. I don't necessarily see it that way. Because I went like angry. I just like my thing was that once that happened, I realized it's going to be hard to keep working with these people when they're willing to kind of do things underhandedly. Now, listen, I am all about the debate and let's have the conversation and win me over with ideas. I'm fine with that. But when you kind of go about it the way that it did, so for me, I realized this was a good time for me to kind of just step away from that aspect of it. But if you remember, Eric, back when we were running, we kind of did, I know I said it. I was like, listen, when this election thing is over, I'll probably do stuff party side, kind of get involved party side. And I did. So I'm still involved locally here at our affiliate.
Gotcha.
Right. So one of the topics I wanted to bring up tonight, and it was a little bit down the list, but I think this is a perfect segue, is the Libertarian Party as it stands right now. And recently, well, last week, I met up at a event with Chase Oliver out here in sunny Southern California. How's the weather back there for you guys, by the way? Because it was like 92 degrees here today, and it was sunny and all that. You know, how's it going in Florida right now?
Right now, we remember we're here in Jacksonville, so we don't get many times the storms come up through here. Jacksonville stays pretty much out of it. So right now we're outside. It's a little bit windy, a little bit breezy. That's about it. Rain every now and then. Not bad at all, though.
Okay. And Erica, how you guys doing out there? You guys aren't getting. It hasn't reached that far north yet. So
no, not yet. It did rain a little today. So I've started a lawn business on the side, or I'm trying to get it going, and I had a yard to do. And as a guy's like, look, man, it's really wet. I probably shouldn't cut it. You know, I don't want to mess it up. And he said, go ahead and cut it anyways. I don't care. It's not gonna quit raining for the next 4 days. So that's the bad part. But the rain, like the typical rain in Florida, and Tub can attest to this, usually when it's not a serious storm off the coast, it'll rain like every afternoon between 3 and 4 p.m. And then the sun's out, it's fine. But it'll be like a thunderstorm, lightning, everything, and then it'll go away. Here in North Carolina, when it rains, it's not a bunch of rain at once, but it rains all day. So it's a little bit different. But it's not all the time. The weather is usually good. We'll get a couple days of rain, and then it'll clear up here. So,
well, yeah, I was asking. My dad lives in Florida, Delray Beach, so he's down a little bit south from Jacksonville. It's closer to Miami than anything. Okay. And you know, prayers out to the people in Florida right now, because this is a big storm, and it's just another reason why you need to be your own first responder. You don't need to rely on government, because these things, you know, I always tell people with Hurricane Katrina and like with this storm, the government has plenty of warning it's coming, but their response is always delayed and half-assed. Excuse my French. So you need to take care of, to the best of your ability, and take care of your neighbors and family as well, because that's what libertarians do. You know, we don't necessarily need to default to the government to take care of us during these times. We need to be able to muster the resources and the wherewithal to understand that their priority isn't us. Their priority is going to be infrastructure and businesses, making sure businesses aren't getting looted and whatnot. Meanwhile, people can run rampant in your neighborhood. They're not going to be there. So take care of yourselves and prepare and get to safety. I hope everybody's doing that out there.
So you brought up Libertarian Party. Can we just sum it up in? I mean, I don't know this.
Yeah, I got a little bit off. I'm
Dumpster
sorry.
fire lately.
Yeah,
no,
I
you're
got a
good.
little bit off track because I was talking to Chase last week at that event, and I said how disappointed I was with the national convention and the outcome. Not about his nomination, because I had 3 people I truly liked. Now, I liked all of them, but there was 3 that were up there for me, and 2 of them are on the ticket.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was talking to him about the fiasco at the national convention, where they're inviting other parties to speak as if we're not a legitimate party, as if we're not a force to be reckoned with. We're just like some Rudy players at Notre Dame. Hopefully we can get in a play or 2 and not get our jaw cracked open from a middle linebacker. But where do you guys think libertarians are in this election cycle, as far as both nationally and locally?
So I feel for our here in North Carolina, we got some good statewide candidates. Mike Rossville, I'll talk about him later. He's running for governor. Bob Drack running for state auditor. He's the only actual accountant running for state auditor, but he's not one of the uniparty duopoly candidates, so he's not looked at. He did get some good press, but I feel for those guys because nationally, with everything that happened to Trump, I guess 2 assassination attempts now, with the switch from Biden to Harris, the Democrats are trending popularity with RFK Jr. dropping out. No one's been paying attention to libertarians on a national level at all. And it's disappointing because, in my opinion, the libertarian ticket, if you are a libertarian, is way more appealing than the history and the examples you have from both people running for major parties. You have 4 years of Trump, and you have 4 years of a Harris executive. You know what I mean? You see what you're going to get, more of the same, a little bit different. Now, as far as the libertarian ticket, before convention, Chase was in my top 3. At convention, and it's nothing that he did, but he dropped a couple positions, and guys that were behind him moved up. And I've mentioned that before. Man, what was the guy? Hornberger jumped up a lot at convention, but his convention speech was fire, and he's a straight up. I don't want to say he's an ANCAP for sure, but he's a strict, libertarian. I don't know. His speech was amazing. He moved up, and then after, I think the establishment political party had the Oppo research done ahead of time for all of our candidates, because immediately all the old tweets from Chase came out, and then the police report on Mike Tremack came out, and it's not police report, but
his record.
The qualified immunity thing that he got, that whatever. I'm just saying, the establishment had that stuff keyed up.
Yeah,
and
they did their homework.
Dropped. Yeah, they were ready to steal votes from libertarians immediately, regardless. You know what I mean? And
no matter who it was.
Had it been Lars, he'd have been a porn king. Had it been, you know what I mean? And that's some stuff that
or Josh
would
have been right, kind of hardcore right winger.
Yeah, but some of that we all knew about, and I think I might have known about some of the Chase tweets too. I had no idea about the Mike Tremack stuff, so that's where it's the wind immediately got taken out of the party, our candidate sales, and it happened from either, here's my tinfoil hat, the intelligence agencies gathered and provided that information, or the 2 parties who likely have people from the intelligence agencies within them. But, the Libertarian Party probably has their intelligence agency people in it as well.
Well, we're gonna get to Tub real quick, but I guarantee you, if you're a real libertarian and if you're doing big stuff, if you're putting your name out there, if you're doing anything, there's a dossier on you because you are a extremist. And there's geeks and nerds sitting in like Quantico, Virginia, or somewhere in Langley that are just watching this show, watching the Libertarian, and like they are a threat. They are a threat. I don't know why I'm a threat. I'm a nice guy. You come over to my house, I'm gonna offer you a beer, and if you give me enough time, I'm gonna make a brisket. But you know, I'm very hospitable. So, Tub, I saw you writing down notes. What is your thoughts on this matter?
All right, so we'll start with the fact that Eric did mention about Hornberger. And I think while we were there, we had conversations about Hornberger specifically.
Yeah.
You're right. He does come across a little more like, wait a minute, where's this guy been all this time? You know, you start hearing, here's the problem with Hornberger, though. This is what we found out, remember? So when you ever seen some of his videos that he would make? He used to just be driving in his car and he's complaining about government. I'm like, okay, those aren't bad. And then he gave that speech in particular. And you're like, this guy gets it. And then you get him off the stage or whatever. Like there was a couple of times we went to try to talk to him. Like, hey, you know what about it? Dude's gone. Just gone. Yeah. You know, like after he's done with what he can get out.
Yeah, he's checked out. He's got to. Yeah,
he's done. Like you would talk to him, and you could tell I'm not even sure he knew always where he was.
Well,
so inside, I was like, okay, we needed somebody in that sense with that fire that he has, that ability that he has, but maybe it wasn't Hornberger in all reality. Now, along all of those other things, now I said from the very beginning, because if you remember before, I had mentioned that I had a willingness to run for vice president. Yeah. So I kind of had that out there. And so we'd had some conversations. Chase and I had conversations. So I kept saying all along, before all of that, before convention, I says, our goal, to me, the way I saw it, that our presidential, vice presidential candidates should really be focused on down ticket stuff. Because the way, listen, let's not pretend like all of a sudden we're going to have the White House. We're not. So what you do is you take that platform for everything that you possibly can. Because you got to admit that those guys are going to get, like, if you look at some of the things Chase has been doing over the past couple of weeks, he's had some legit coverage. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know if you get those updates. Like, I get those updates, and he's been doing some things and getting some notoriety out of it. And I'm like, that's a great opportunity for us to say, hey, like, whoever our candidates, this is before convention, I said, whoever our candidates are, they should really be like, hey, this is great. I'm running. This is who we are. I need you to look at this person. And kick it down to the state level, to the local level, anything along those lines to kind of, hey, bring attention to those lower races. Because if we're going to be successful as a party, it's going to start lower. It's going to start locally. Because those are the ones that they can kind of go up and talk. Remember, Eric, when we were doing it, we were able to have these conversations and we got invited. Now, here's the thing. We got invited to a lot of things. Eric went everywhere. Eric crashed everywhere. Like, I didn't think he was supposed to be there. I'm surprised he get the cops called on him sometimes.
I went to Republican events.
He would show up, but once they learned we were running, we got invited everywhere. Like, we got invited places. And then it gave us the opportunity to kind of be like, hey, this is who we are. This is what we believe. And it was inside of that where people started going, hey, wait a minute. These libertarians aren't as crazy as I hear they are. You know what I'm saying? Because we kind of get a bad rap out there. Yeah. And so when they were able to kind of have a real conversation with us, they go, hey, wait a minute, I can kind of get behind these guys. Now, granted, I say this, everybody's a libertarian until it's time to vote. Like, I can't tell you how many people have come up to me like, you know, Tub, I'm really a libertarian. Good, go vote it. Good, go run as it. No, they're not that libertarian. So inside it, so I look at it and I go, okay, so I think we can agree that now this was the first national convention I had gone to.
Me too.
And even I could look at this and go, this is a bit of a train wreck. Like this is pretty bad. But you know what it is? Typical libertarian. That like I'm sitting there, I'm going, this is what libertarians do. I'm not overly surprised by this. Now, my wife, who is not a libertarian, because she's smart enough. And so she was there. And so she would sit obviously up off the floor. And she was there. She's like, I love the drama of this. Like when convention was over, she was telling me stuff that was going on Twitter and everything because she got caught up in the drama. Now, here's the thing. None of them won her over. None of our inside party antics win people over to being a part of us. Now, I've often said this for the church. I said, here's the thing. Imagine you come walking up and out in the parking lot, they're out there yelling at each other. Just yelling about whatever Bible version, whatever it happens to be, they're out there yelling about it. Now, when you walk in, is that an environment you want to be in when you know it started with a fight? And everybody's like, well, no. Well, that's what libertarians are. We spend all of our time inside fighting and having all of these issues, and then we wonder why nobody wants to come in. Many times, it's not our ideas. When people hear just our ideas, they're not against us. They start seeing the craziness of some of the people, and they become against us. And you can't even fight that. So I'm looking at it, and I go, let me tell you this real quick. I believe, maybe a little bit contrary to what Eric said, I'm kind of surprised how well we are kind of doing, how our ticket is doing. Only because when Kennedy got in and all that was happening, I'm like, listen, I had conversations with people leading up to convention. And I'm like, you understand, we're fighting for 4th place this time. Yeah. Because I was like, if Jill Stein gets arrested one more time, we're done, dude. Like, we're 5th.
Yeah, why won't Chase go to jail already?
Right. Like, come on, man. So when that happened, I'm like, okay. So I'm like, we're fighting for 4th at best. Because I figured out the top 2, Kennedy and then us. And then when I looked at it, and then when Kennedy dropped out, I'm like, well, hang on. And I have seen a certain amount of people who are like, they got really bad at Kennedy because, like, dude, you went to Trump of all people, you know? So I've seen where I have seen there's some conversations and stuff where people are a little more open to our ticket because, you know why? And I think part of it is they don't like the Harris either. So like, you know what? We don't want Trump. We don't want Harris. Where do we go? And I think that we're getting, now here's the thing. Will it turn out and vote that way? Who knows? But here's the thing. If we say, hey, we don't care if, this is going to sound harsh the way it says, we don't care if people don't vote Libertarian for the top ticket. Vote down low. Like they might go, hey, I'm not ready to vote Libertarian for president. Fine. Okay, fine. But would you be willing to look at a Libertarian for Senate? Like we have a Senate person running, we have FINA running. Like, would you be willing to look at people who are local to you for Libertarian? And I think we should take advantage of it that way.
Well, speaking of local, one of our co-hosts who couldn't make it on tonight missed out on $200 and has a few names he's being called on in the background. Nothing's too bad.
That's not too bad.
Nothing too bad.
Just the worst things.
All I'm saying is I didn't say any of them. I just elaborated on what was there.
All right. Michael White is running for a state representative, if I'm correct, in Arkansas, right?
Yeah. Arkansas.
Against a Democrat. And it's in what is it? Little Rock, some part of Little Rock. West Little Rock. And this is undoubtedly the most winnable race for a libertarian in the entire United States because it's a 2-person race and it's libertarian ideas versus Democrat ideas. Let me qualify that. Failed Democrat ideas because in my book, both parties have failed. Everybody likes to complain about what's going on in America. This is wrong. This is terrible. This is horrible. And then they go elect people that are completely responsible for all those faults and failures. And it's as if, you know, I always say Americans are insane because they vote for the same crap over and over again and expect different results. There is not one issue that you can complain about that either big party candidate is not directly responsible for. If you want to talk about immigration, you know, it's Congress's responsibility to enact legislation that would halt or whatever you want to do to immigration. That's Congress. That's not necessarily the executive branch that does that. They can make rules for the agencies, which I don't agree with because I think everything needs to go through the House of Representatives. That's what a republic is. It goes through the people, and then the executive signs off, or we have another process to say yes or no on that. If they wanted to fix the border, Congress, they could do it right now. If they wanted to tap down the debt, they could do it right now. If they wanted to take care of government subsidized health care, as because we do have it, and all these other things, they could do it right now. But why would they fix the problems that drives Americans to the polls? Because they can't run without the fear, because they don't have any good ideas. And that's what pissed me off about libertarians. We have good ideas, and we did not seize this opportunity when we had two of the worst possible candidates, octogenarians. That's how you say 80-year-olds, because Trump.
Yeah.
Everybody was like, Biden's old. Those fools were in high school together. They were. It's not like this is generational difference. One was a senior, one was a freshman or a sophomore. So it wasn't like America was getting the best. We have 305 million or something like that people, and those are the best two people. And one of them figured out, dude, you're just not going to do it. You're really sacrificing our party if you stay in. And he had the wherewithal and sense to drop out. And so
I think he was forced out.
He was
forced out. He was forced out, but he still had to go before the American people and say, okay, I'm dropping out. So I don't give him credit for crap. And I'm not cussing because I wanted to say the S word, but only because
yeah. We're gonna get Marcus into heaven if it's the last thing we do.
That's our goal.
Hey, I'm already there. I'm in heaven right now being with you. This is like, it's special. Because, like I said, I want to get libertarians from all around the country, and we're going to have this big old thing, and we're going to make this a legitimate party. And I firmly believe that, because we are the future. The future, young people are more and more disenfranchised with the two-party system. What I think Chase brings to the party, because he's big on TikTok. He does a lot of views and things like that on TikTok. And he's opening up the door to the youth, because boomers are in their mid, late 70s.
Yeah, Tub.
I'm 50.
And then you have Gen X, which is late 40s to early 60s right now. And that's I'm in that group. And then we have millennials, who I call the worst generation that has ever existed. I'm all for personal freedom, but we don't need 720 genders.
That wasn't millennials. That
was millennials. That's bullshit. You got sorry, Tough, but
yeah. All right, you're going home now.
Yeah.
And
then we have Gen Y and the Zoomers that are coming up, and
that's the multi-gender folks. I'm just saying, millennials, man, we had good music for a while, good rap music. You know what I mean? Now, the culture.
Nope.
Well, all right.
Nope.
I feel like
I already discussed hip hop. He's a Rakim fan.
Listen, you had Sugar Hill Gang, Tub.
I
Wow.
I was way younger. All right, let's be very
I'm glad you even knew that reference, though.
So listen, I had real rap music. Let's
real.
Run
DMC is Run DMC. I mean, Tub.
Yeah, Run DMC, Rakim, and Cool Mo D. Which, listen, I'm gonna tell you right now, Marcus. Every time you have those glasses on, I'm telling you.
Oh, I get that. Yeah, somebody. Yeah, I can dig it. See, Tub and I were in high school together. Yeah, Tub and I were in high school.
Whoa. Marcus usually doesn't say how old he is on here because he knows.
I know what. You're older than Tub.
I'm older.
That's it. I'm Gen X. I'm proudly Gen X. We were the generation. I walked.
Yeah, but Tub is the old man. You know what I mean? I don't care about age. Tub is the old man.
Actually, I'm older than Tub.
Are you really?
I know.
Yeah, I'm 51.
Dang.
That's what I'm saying.
Well, black don't crack, though. I look like I'm easily 26, 27.
Those are some amazing glasses you have on.
I've seen you with that hat off.
Yeah. That's another story. I never see. I had a full head of hair before I got married and had kids. So my advice to everybody out there is don't get married.
I had dark hair before church.
Yeah. See,
like,
there you go.
Like I can truly show you before the church started 13 years ago, my hair was dark.
Yeah. See, there you go.
Then it was dealing with people like Eric all the time, and you see.
I'm doing great.
Listen, he doesn't have a mullet anymore. Wait a minute, is this?
Yeah, I was telling Marcus about the mullet, and he said he
was rocking a mullet when I first met him.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, he was the quintessential Florida man when I first met him, and he disappointed me to all high heaven when he moved to North Carolina because I thought I had a trademark thing, and now by default, Tub is my Florida man, and you just got to deal with it, bro. That's
fine.
it. I'm like
representative for Florida man.
What sucks is I'm not quite in Appalachia either, so I can't be like the Appalachia. Yeah, I'm not quite. I'm like in the foothills. You know what I mean? So
for Florida, you're a mountain man.
Yeah. Speaking of North Carolina, what the hell is going on with your governor up there?
So it's a
your lieutenant governor.
Lieutenant governor, and I don't know what's his name. Mark Robinson. He's apparently So, Tub, have you heard of him before today?
No, not at all. I don't even know what's going on.
Well, so Marcus was tracking on him before he got popular lately.
What happened?
But he's Uncle Ruckus.
That's what Marcus calls
him. Of Uncle Ruckus. I don't know if you understand that reference, Tub. No. Have you ever watched the Boondocks? Uncle Ruckus is this black character that hates black people. And that's who Mark Robinson is. I'm sorry. He
What's funny is Marcus, you said this about him like months ago, and I was like, I don't know. I just think he's a little. I've used the word like lunatic. He's out there. So now this isn't his problem, but is he a pastor or does he just speak at a lot of like Christian events?
No, he became popular because he did this. Pro 2A rant at a city council meeting, and he went viral. And then he got propped up from that. Some people approached him, told him to run for office. First time running for office, he won the lieutenant governor of North Carolina.
That's pretty big the first time.
Yeah. When I saw his speech, I was like, that wasn't a bad speech.
Yeah.
But then, that just shows how much American politics is a popularity contest.
Yes.
Because, it doesn't matter who you are. And I'm not saying that's a disqualifier because that doesn't necessarily say how you are governed. But he was legitimate in his speech. And then he gets a platform, he gets some power, and he takes a deep dive. He jumps off the cliff into the crazy pool.
Yeah, the culture war stuff, like he went full on like and this is like anti like trans banning books and all that stuff. He took a real sharp right turn, but I'll get back to D in a minute. Like my problem is, and Mike Ross is the Libertarian running for governor here in North Carolina, points out like he hasn't done anything for the Second Amendment since he's been in office. He hasn't even spoken about it. He hasn't talked about constitutional carry. He hasn't used even though it's lieutenant governor, used the bully pulpit. So in North Carolina, your governor and lieutenant governor are elected separately. We have a Democrat governor and a Republican lieutenant governor, and he's the Republican. But and I get it. They're like, well, that's kind of Tub knows running for lieutenant governor. It's kind of like, well, this is going to be the easiest job ever.
Yeah.
Oh,
you don't have to do anything. But you do get a bully pulpit. You know what I mean? He could have used that to influence, and I do think our state legislature leans more Republican. But and
he had a national state. Mark Robinson, the lieutenant governor of North Carolina, has had a national stage since he made that viral speech, and that had to be 5-6 years ago. It was before COVID.
Why isn't he pushing for constitutional carry? Why isn't he pushing for unrelated to Second Amendment, but like defend the guard legislation? Why isn't he pushing for like ending certificate of need laws in the state of North Carolina for medicals? Like, that's my problem, is like, dude, do better. And that's where like Mike Ross will do better.
Right.
So if you were, all right, so to get to the why this Mark Robinson guy is trending now, Marcus, you want to elaborate a little on like what came about?
When you put yourself out there and you want to be controversial, you're going to get a crap ton of people that are going to start digging. And like I told my kids a long time ago, anything you put on social media, on the internet, is forever. Somebody has saved it. There is no escaping that fact. And Mark Robinson used the same username across multiple platforms, including Nude Africa. I'm pretty sure that it was nudeafrica.com. Called himself a black Nazi, said he enjoyed transgender porn, and something about rape.
And he's been anti-transgender, but then they found that same username had liked some transgender porn. Like,
yeah, and
but
this isn't the best.
He denies that that's his account, that sort of thing.
We're not trying to bash, but this is an example of how the uniparty duopoly doesn't live, or doesn't have to live, to the same standards as all three of us have to live to. If any of us were exposed like that, we would lose our credibility, our jobs, our families, all kinds of things would be at a loss. But when you're in a duopoly, there's always an excuse, man, that's going to come to your rescue. Or you could just say, no, that didn't happen. And your adoring fans and blind allegiance people are just going to dismiss it as partisan, whatever. What do you call that? Partisan hit job on you.
So let me ask a question then, because it's somewhat off topic, but you kind of brought it up there. So for the longest time, and Eric will tell you, I've been against libertarians giving too much credit to these liberty-leaning Republicans.
Right.
They're all like, oh, he's so great. And I'm like, he's still a Republican. Like, let's be very clear. He says some cool things. That does not make him. And I keep saying how we should be supporting our own over even those ones.
Yeah.
But here's the question. Should libertarians, and even speaking like myself, like I'm having kind of this coming around and I'm struggling with a little bit, should libertarians consider running in other parties? Because of, you get like kind of what you said there, there's a circling of the wagons, sort of, you kind of get that protection, you get a little more attention inside of it. So do we come to a point where we start saying, hey, you know what, if libertarian candidates in particular want to start being effective, do we start running as Republicans and Democrats?
So
yeah,
Marcus, you answer first and then I'll follow up.
I think that's a double-edged sword.
Yeah.
Because if you're truly a libertarian, and once you, so here's the thing that I've gained from speaking to libertarians running for office that have been approached by Republicans. A lot of times legislation comes through and the Republican or Democratic boss tells you how to vote on it. And you never read that legislation. You don't have any clue other than the title. And there's always a great title. The Patriot Act is a prime example.
What the title said.
That's the greatest effing title you can ever imagine. Oh, if you don't vote for this, you're not a patriot. Those are the things that Democrats and Republicans do. They give all their legislation a title that was written by lobbyists and industry insiders and people with something to gain from that becoming law. And how do you, as a true libertarian, and me being the only real libertarian, I can say this with extreme confidence, how do you, as a libertarian, inject yourself into that situation and not end up being retaliated against eventually down the line? If you say, before we pass this 10,000, 1,200 page bill, how about we read it and see what it truly contains to make sure it is of, for, and by the people? And if you do that, how many times do you think that will happen before they say, okay, we're going to start trying to get this dude out of our caucus.
So, but and Eric, I'll let you. But here's the thing. So imagine, and trust me, I'm fully in line with you on this one. So Eric knows I've said this for years now. But no, we run as libertarians. We put in the fight. We do the extra work. We are what we are. But here's the thing. Now think about what you just said. So let's say it's easier to just say, okay, so I run as a Republican. I get on city council. And I stand there and I hold true to my libertarian thinking. Like I say, hey, this is where I'm going to stand. I'm going to vote no. I'm going to read stuff. I'm going to make a stink about things. You know what I'm saying? And let it be known. Because around here, even though Jacksonville's pretty big, Eric knows it's kind of a small town in a sense sometimes. Mm-hmm. You know? And so the word would get out like, hey, this guy's kind of, he's saying some things. So then do we have the hope of maybe the party doesn't like us, but the people do?
Right. And
then you have the hope of maybe that's where your reelection comes from. Because the people said, hey, you know what? I like this guy. You know what I'm saying? Because the party is going to turn on you. Mm. I truly believe that. And that's why I tell everybody, says, you realize they say these libertarian type things, but if you realize the party's not turning on them because they're still Republicans. And that's why the party doesn't turn. So Eric, go ahead.
So I'm going to rant here a little bit, but I think libertarians should be attacking it from all sides. But I think if the Libertarian Party wants to grow, they need to run good candidates regardless. And if you're going to switch parties, make it strategic. I don't see the point in switching to run as a Republican in a district that the Democrat's going to win by 30. You know what I mean? Like, now, if you got a chance to pull out a win, so I'm going to use Michael White right now. Look, if you don't want libertarians to leave to the Republican Party, go to mwforliberty.com right now and give him some money. And look, I'm giving him $200 tonight, regardless of the fact he didn't come on. I was joking about that earlier. But like, seriously, I feel defeated because I supported Republican Mara Macy for Congress, who was running against the worst congressman with the worst voting record in Congress, John Rutherford. He's worse than Liz Cheney. And like literally his voting record is worse than Liz Cheney. I gave to her campaign. She was a great candidate local to Jacksonville. I went sign waved. I wish I could have done more. She was the better option. In her Republican primary, she got like 33%. So if you can't win in the Republican Party, why be there? Now, at the same time, the Republican Party has some wins. They got Rand Paul, Thomas Massey, and that's it. Mm-hmm. Justin Amash just got trounced. Yep. Now, it's because he went against Trump. So Trump's got a stranglehold on the party. Trump endorsed terrible Rutherford. Now, it's not Trump doing these endorsements. It's his political hacks.
Yeah.
That's my problem with MAGA and Trump is like, I don't trust the people he's surrounding himself with still. Whoever's doing these endorsements is an establishment fool. I want nothing to do with them. So, but we do have like our Eric Brakey. We've had him on this podcast before. Yeah. He's a Republican in Maine, and he's now running. He's the president of the Free State Project, and he's moving to New Hampshire. I think he's in Senate. Is he the senator?
He's the Senate in Maine.
State Senate in Maine as a Republican, but I'm telling you, he's a small L libertarian, but he's more libertarian than most libertarians. He's the good one. That was a Republican, registered Republican, and he's moving to New Hampshire. And I asked him, well, how long until you run? And he said, I'm not showing my cards yet. Anyways, so Lily Tang Williams. Now, she won her primary as a Republican. She had ran as a libertarian in New Hampshire and I think Colorado multiple times and never got more than 4 or 5, 10% on a good day in the general election. She just won her primary. She's in a Democrat district. She might not win the general. So that's what I'm saying is like strategic. I wish Lily Tang Williams would have moved to a Republican district and won the primary and then got elected. That's what I'm saying. Like, be strategic. If you're going to, Look, the point of a political party is to help candidates run for office and win elections. If the Libertarian Party isn't helping you win your election or run for office, then maybe it is time to switch parties. But when we ran for local office, our local and our state and national, to an extent, helped us. I can't say it's their fault we didn't win. You know what I mean? Because we got help from state. They gave us money. Mises Caucus and the state party helped us put up billboards. You know what I mean? Like Mises.
Eric,
I mentioned you know what I mean? I'm just saying we need to attack from all sides.
So, but
I'm not against it.
Isn't what you just said kind of the argument about why some good candidates would run as Republicans? Because, like, think about what you just said. We did have help. We did have the people backing us. You know, it says,
no, we didn't get enough help. But that's the point. Is yes, that's what I was trying to get at. Is I don't think there's the resources aren't there yet. Right. Now, even though we ran for local office, we say local office, I got 54,000 votes. That's more than usually votes in a local election, and I lost. So the guy that beat me got double what I got. So that's pretty big for a local race. There's a lot of people voting for local elections in Jacksonville. The crazy part is I got 34.5%, and I haven't looked back at Mara's vote percentage since. I got 34.5% in a unitary election. Everyone can vote in that regardless of political party. Mara only got 33% in her own party, and she had ran before, and she is politically involved in the Republican Party. The problem is voters are stupid. That's the problem. Like, seriously, they are.
Let me know. Voters. Eric Parker said the voters are stupid.
That will. Yeah. Well, I'm just look. Like, there's so many great examples of good. Justin Amash getting beat out by a deep state intelligence agent, like former FBI agent. That's like, and I'm just saying it's ridiculous.
I want to say something very unpopular. Right
okay, specifically, voters in the primary are stupid. Yeah. Not
because those are pretty much the base. You have to peel the base in the primary. But I want to say something very unpopular here. I don't like Rand Paul. I don't. I think he was a shill for Donald Trump, and I'm not a big Trump fan. And don't come at me because I'm not a Biden fan. I'm not an Obama fan.
I'm coming at you. Okay, no,
Bush fan. I'm not. I can honestly say I don't ever remember voting for any elected president. That's how long I've been a libertarian, and I am 26 years old, and I'm sticking to that story.
Too late for that one.
But the thing that I don't like about Rand Paul is, in the face of Trump spent more money in 4 years than Obama did in 8. Trump championed red flag laws. Trump said, take the guns first, due process second. And any libertarian that stands by a dude that says that is a non-starter for me. Just like, if somebody wants to say anything about Joe Biden, that's a non-starter for me.
And Trump called Rand Paul ugly. Do you remember that in the debate?
So here's my thing. All these dudes talk Lindsey Graham, Marco Rubio, Ted Cruz, Chris Christie's the only one that's been real with it. But Trump insulted them, their wives, their family, their whole being in the Republican primary. And today's the anniversary of a Republican presidential debate from the last presidential cycle, where we went live, where I could only stand about the first 30 minutes of it. And everybody up there got insulted by Trump. And everybody up there that got insulted, Ted Cruz in particular, he insulted the dude's wife. And Ted Cruz is sitting here slapping him on the back and praising this dude. And I'm like, bro, he's a bitch. I don't have any other way to sum that up. If some dude talks that much crap about you, your wife, your family, and then you're gonna turn around, oh, this is just politics, it's cutthroat and blah blah blah. Nah, bro, that's personal.
It's about party. It's about party. So I've said, I says, especially people who are already in office. Okay, first it's about themselves.
Yeah.
Then it's about the party. Then it's about the government. Then it's about the people. And so I will tell you this: like when you started saying that about Rand Paul, I'm gonna tell you right now, I'm in line with you. I can't. In fact, Eric knows because that was one of them. I'm like, he's still clearly a Republican. And you know what, Rand Paul? Because I used to refer to him, for lack of a better term, he was a one-trick pony. He would get on there and he would fight with Fauci. That's all he had.
That's all he has to this day.
That was a good fight, though.
No, undoubtedly, but yeah,
he was right.
Hey, I fight with Fauci. I fight with Fauci. Great.
I haven't seen.
Accomplished nothing. What did he change? He would get on there and you'd have all these fights with him, fighting and arguing. Oh, I got him. But what changed? Nothing changed.
I think Fauci resigned, or did he retire? Resigned.
He retired.
Fauci's no longer.
Yeah, he was a bureaucrat.
So he
fired him. Yeah,
he at least got Fauci to retire. I think he got some funding stripped, which I'm all for that.
Was it Fauci or Father Time? That's what
I guarantee you, Fauci would have stayed there till he died had he not been called out lambasted. And that's the thing is, like, there were literally the deep state was trying to make Fauci a celebrity, and there was one guy, like this guy. Well, all right, there's two because RFK wrote a book about him too. So there were two guys in politics that were like, this guy isn't the saint you think he is. Look at his.
I don't respect RFK. Go ahead, Tub.
Yeah. So I mean, anyways,
what you said right there, Mark, is about how he talked trash about his wife and all this other stuff. That, it's kind of coming out now that the two parties is like pro wrestling. Like, it's out there now. Everybody talks about it, but that's proof.
Yeah,
that's proof that you can say whatever you want. It's the show. Back behind the scenes, they're cool, and that's why you don't care. Well, like, dude, you say something about my wife, we have a problem. Like, we're gonna have a problem.
Trump won because
like, I can be cool with you, dude. I'm not cool with you. Like, you can be over there, I'm gonna be over here. We're done. No. That doesn't happen.
Trump won the first time because he leaned into that too, though. You know what I mean?
Well, I think Trump won the first
politics,
time because everybody hated Hillary Clinton. But yeah, go ahead.
That too. Well, I'm saying won the Republican primary. Like, Trump won that because he leaned into the celebrity, whatever, the gotchas, the punchlines, the one-liners, the nicknames, and all this and all that. Like,
the lowest common denominator.
And we were all, I say we, I was a registered Republican then. I voted for Rand Paul in the primary, and then I voted for Gary Johnson in the general election. So, but I'm just saying, so I could say we. I was the Republican, and I didn't fall for it. That's what I'm saying is, voters, get your crap together.
Stupid voters.
Yeah, and that goes to the election right now. We have two more segments. We have we're gonna keep this about another 20, 30 more minutes. So bear with us, people. But now let's get to the election, and I'm gonna go ahead and put this out there. I know we have a long shot at winning this election. It's gonna take Jesus himself coming back and saying vote for Chase Oliver at this point, because this
not going to happen.
That's not gonna happen. The seven seals haven't been, all of that hasn't happened. I don't think it's going to happen. Although after this segment, it's the Middle East, and maybe
it's closer than we thought.
Yeah, so let's just keep it out there. But I put this out there a few weeks ago. I said if the election was held today, Harris would win the White House, Republicans would win the Senate, and Democrats would probably take the House by 2 to 3 votes. I mean, 2 to 3, to the 2 or 3 member majority. Where do you guys stand on the election right now, as what we've seen over the last month and a half or 2 months that Harris came into the fold?
Man, after the first Trump assassination attempt, I was like, he's got it. Like, you know what I mean? How do you? I
Yeah.
feel like if that was planned or deep state or whatever, it happened too early. You know what I mean? Like, literally, people have already forgotten. They've moved on to his second assassination attempt. So, and then now it's like, I don't think he's getting the attention that 2 assassination attempts should get a presidential candidate and or former president. Now, the forced switch from Biden to Harris was a smart move by the DNC, even though Kamala Harris was the least popular vice presidential person in office ever. Like, the DNC, when she was first put in office, was trying to figure out how can we replace her as vice president, the position no one cares about. No one gave a dang about Mike Pence. Didn't even know who he was till he was vice president. Anyways,
yeah.
So, but for whatever reason, the media is pushing her hard. Kamala Harris, I do think she outperformed on the debate, even though I didn't watch all of it, but from what I watched, like I think I caught the middle. I didn't see anyone's opening statements or closing remarks, and I'd heard Trump had better opening statement and closing remarks. But in the middle, what I saw, Trump was a train wreck. He let her get under his skin, get him flustered, and, you know, like, and he just stuck to the cue cards or the answers, whatever, the prepared statements. He would have done better. I don't necessarily want it to go this way. I'd love for the Libertarians to still enough votes to whatever, make it topsy-turvy, and I think Lars Map said wouldn't be able to do that. Anyways, I digress. Stop 270. I hope Chase is still trying to do that. But I agree with you. I for whatever reason, I feel like Harris is the powers that be want her over Trump, and they're doing everything they can to make sure she squeaks it out. Now, as far as I would say, go House Republican, Senate split like it is now with a Democrat as the vice, and therefore they are the tiebreaker in the Senate. That's what I'm leaning towards. Same as it is, but different, if that makes sense.
But different. All right, so let's start with for what you brought up there, Eric. They both lost that debate. They were
yeah.
They were. I actually watched that whole thing. Okay, I'm the idiot who's like, hey, now here's the thing is, I watched.
You had nothing better. I was at work,
right.
So I can only.
I watched it like most of America did. Let's be very clear. Most of the people who watch that debate already know who they're voting for. Like, it doesn't make any difference.
Debates don't change anything.
They were done. So I was watching it for pure entertainment value. That's it. I already know I'm voting for Chase. I don't care about all this stuff. So inside of that, they both lost, okay? Because she didn't answer anything, and he was just an idiot.
Yeah.
So I look at it and go, okay, this is train wreck, and I got the entertainment value out of it that I expected. I was a little let down, but it is what it is. So they both
It wasn't as entertaining as you was expecting.
At least, listen, I'm going to be honest with you. I was more entertained with the Biden one because spaced out. I was making that guy just like fall down and just forget where he was or walk off.
Poop his pants.
So with this, here's the thing. I think who's going to win. I'm going to be honest with you. I pay attention here. I can't tell you. I'm not even going to try to say it's one or the other at this point right now. You know what it depends on? Whose feed you're on. Like if you're on Twitter and stuff like that, and I don't know how. Like I don't know if y'all have noticed. I pretty much been off of Twitter completely. It's a train wreck over there. Like it's just constant back and forth. My feed, when I do go look at it, it's all full of pro Harris, all this other stuff, and I'm like,
it's weird.
So I stay away from it. Now here's the thing: if you're the other side, all the other ones are going, my man's got it, and the other one's like, oh, she's got it. So it's just depending on whose feed you're on will determine about who you think is going to win. Now, here's the thing: overall, I think if Harris were to win. Okay, but here's what you suggested, Marcus. You suggested that the Dems would probably get the House. That's dangerous. Yeah. Because if you think about her biggest thing that she wants to do is throw money at everything. Everything for her is spending and giving money away. And can you imagine if she had the House? Remember, the House is what determines spending. So
Yeah.
if those two matched up, it would be like we'd be done. Well, like financial, because like I try to tell people all the time, like, hey, our society's going to downfall. I go, yeah, but not the way you think. It's going to be economic. We're economically going to fail, and that's what's going to cause the downfall of our society. And can you imagine if she had a little bit of a pass through the House for spending? So I look at that and I go, the worst thing that could possibly happen is not that Harris becomes president. It's just not. Everybody says, well, we're all going to fall apart. And I go, the only way we completely fall apart if Harris becomes president, if she gets House. And can you imagine if she got both?
Yeah.
Like, that's the end of it. That's what will end the country at that point right there, because we'll be broke. So I look at that and I go, if Harris wins, can we at least make sure that the Republicans get the House? Listen, I like when there's competition. I like when they're split. I like a little bit of deadlock. I like when they can't get nothing done. When they talk about, hey, we're going to shut down government, I'm sitting back going, good, shut it down. Because every time, and I tell you, that's why they're talking about shut down now. Remember, they're talking about getting the funding for it. You know why they don't want to shut down? Because during shutdowns, the people start realizing, hey, why do we need so much government? Because they realize that during shutdowns, all of these other things factor out of play, and we keep functioning as a country. And so they've learned that, the reason why they want to keep funding government is not so much like, no, they're trying to protect their own tails. Because they start realizing, we start going, wait a minute, why do we have all of this government that we're paying for? So I look at that and I go, can you imagine if it continues and Harris gets the control of those things, that they get the point of, we have the money. So I would say if Harris wins, let's just make sure that the House stays with the Republicans for a little bit of deadlock.
Well, I'll tell you this. Government is the only entity that has perfected perpetual motion because it requires no energy to propel itself forward. It's only system that fuels it is us, the voters and taxpayer dollars. And particularly, I'm talking about our government, because our government doesn't give a flying flip about whether any of the three of us or any of the people listening and watching have food on their dinner table, or can provide shelter for their family, or can make sure their kids get the best education. Government only wants to ensure its existence. The only thing it protects is itself. And that's what's sad. And the deviation, I talk about the founding of this country. Those guys probably would not have liked me speaking out right now. And that's just the plain honest facts. But the concept of America is of a divine nature, where the individual has the free will to go out there and make a way and a path for themselves as they see fit, as long as you're not doing any harm to others. And that's what I think is the most virtuous part of libertarianism, and in fact the most omnipotent part about libertarianism is going out there and living how you see fit. Whether you want to go get yourself a homestead, raise chickens and goats, and live off the grid away from everybody else, government shouldn't be in that. Or whether you want to live in an urban center and go out and do what you want to do, government shouldn't be a part of that. In the pregame, I was talking to Eric. I was like, there's 3 absolute places that government should never be, amongst many others, but there's 3 that come to mind immediately for me. 1, that's at your kitchen table. 2, that's in your wallet. And 3, that's in your doctor's office. I don't think government should be anywhere near those situations. And like I said, amongst other things. And that's where I think Americans have failed, because and it was particularly after 9/11 for me, after we started elevating the government above us. Because if it wasn't for the government, we wouldn't be able to respond to the United States foreign policy blunders that caused all these people to have such animosity for us that they would deem fit to come here and kill as many people as humanly possible, and not just on 9/11, but multiple things. You know, none of us here have any beef with a full 10,000 miles away just trying to live his life until bombs start dropping on their wedding. You know, yeah. They don't know us from lit. And it's only government that provides them an outlet for hatred.
I mean, a couple guys in Iraq might know me, but you know.
Yeah. But you know, it's the United States government that's going over to these foreign countries that's creating these problems for us here. And then the United States government was like, you know what? If you don't let us listen to your phone calls and read your emails, we can't keep you safe. You know?
Well, because the Patriot Act was written long before those attacks.
Yeah.
It was ready to go.
That's why I went so fast.
That's what kills me about America. The Patriot Act just showed up. That thing was 5,000 plus pages, and it was ready to go shortly after 9/11. They had a game plan, and if you're a conspiracy theorist, which I don't particularly care for, because it's not a conspiracy. These are facts. This is not something.
It is a conspiracy. It's not a conspiracy theory. What I'm saying, all conspiracy means is like, well, yeah, multiple people were conspiring. That is,
it's not a theory.
Proven.
You're correct.
It is proven that the Patriot Act was titled something else, but it was like on a dusty shelf in some think tank's office, and they're like, yo, like the NSA lobbyists were like, I got something for you guys. This is going to be good for all of us. So, yeah.
You know what's funny? Out of all of that, you know what I love reminding people? I say, hey, you know, they had to put the blame on somebody when it happened. They had to blame somebody. So they blamed the security people at the airports. So they had to TSA, and they had to put all those people in. And I go, hey, y'all understand that the things that those people took on the planes were legal at the time.
Yeah.
But they were legal. So it wasn't a matter of security issues. They were allowed to have those things. It was all in play. It was all in place already. And I look, I go, I use the TSA as the example of how quick they can put more government into place.
So
it's amazing.
Y'all made me wonder how early or how long do you think the CARES Act of 2020 was sitting on a shelf at the FDA or the NHS or
as soon as it was humanly possible. It was
they're
years.
Like, we need all this funding. Like, oh yeah, we got this virus, and now we need this.
I'm going to use a Star Wars reference to speak to that real quick, because Star Wars, when it originally came out in 1976 or whenever it was, or 77, it was Episode 4. The episode 1, 2, and 3
live
were ready. Oh, shut the hell up! all the rest of the episodes were conceptual, but George Lucas said we don't have the technology to truly bring this into practice right now and bring this to the stage as beautifully as possible. That's what goes on with the Patriot Act and the CARES Act and all that stuff. It has to be set up. The stage and the background have to be set before you can bring the actors on stage to perform the act for the people to truly and properly appreciate what they have presented to us.
So the question becomes, how far are they willing to push it so it can finally be the right time to put this stuff into place?
I'll sum that up in 2 words: Pearl Harbor. Because that was it was known that the Japanese Empire was planning that. The Americans knew that was going to happen, but they didn't have an end to World War II without something of that nature happening, because that's what Roosevelt wanted. Roosevelt wanted the war, but America was like, we don't want no more parts of European bullshit. And
so he had to bring it home. He had to bring it.
He had to bring it to your doorstep.
Before they're like, hey, wait a minute, there's some crazy stuff going on here.
Yeah.
And he ignored them. Like, he knew every bit of that. He put every bit of that in place to happen.
The U.S. intelligence agencies knew Pearl Harbor was going to happen.
Yep.
The U.S. intelligence intelligence agencies knew that there were Saudi and Yemeni and whatever UAE operatives working with Al Qaeda in the United States, and then somehow they magically lost track of them. But if you or I rob a bank or get on the lam and we use our ATM at Buc-ee's in Texas and in BF Texas somewhere, and we swipe our ATM card, we know exactly where you are. Yeah. So for them to say, "Oh, we lost these guys," is complete another malarkey. And you know, I want to segue that into our
final
last
segment,
our last segment, which is the Middle East, because things are expanding quickly. And you know, I grew up in the church, and one of the things about Revelations, they talk about the eagle and the bear and the dragon coming to the Middle East.
You know anything about that?
I hate end time stuff. I hate it.
I completely hate it because I think it's unfair to my kids.
They got nothing to look forward to.
It was like, why are you doing all this when we're about to be over with? But you know, I'm glad we have Tub here because he can speak to this from a biblical perspective as our resident theologist.
I won't. I say I am not an end times guy.
You won't speak to politics?
Because when you get into biblical stuff about end times, now you can do the Matthew 20, you can get into the Matthew stuff where Jesus says, hey, here are the things that are going to happen leading up to. I'm like, hey, we can discuss those all day. But when we get into actually the events of through the book of Revelation, the last part of Daniel, all of those type of things, I say, hey, guys, that's not my world. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm a life application preacher. So my thing is always be ready for when all of these things are going to happen. Because ultimately, there are guys who study their whole careers. 40 years, they'll be studying Revelation, end time type stuff, and they only have opinions. Like they all like, oh, I think it's this. Like, what is it? You ask 10 end times preachers, and you're going to get 11 different beliefs. And so inside of that, like, I honestly, I don't deal with it biblically. I just don't, because everything turns into, well, it could mean this or it could mean that, and everybody can come up with whatever they want, and nobody knows.
All right, can we get a 5-minute end times conspiracy theory prediction? Go.
You have one?
No, I'm asking, but you should write a book.
Who do you see? Who is you should write a book? So here's
no, I'm saying like if it was like Left Behind series, for example, like that was a good series.
I gotta be honest, I can't stand that series. I think that because number one,
I never read them.
The rapture shows up. The word rapture is nowhere in the Bible.
Harpazo is only a word that means to be called up. That's it.
Yeah. And you know the rapture
messed up because when Paul talks about it, he's not talking about end time stuff because they'll go into Thessalonians like, hey, this is what it says. That's not what Paul's talking about.
Yeah.
Paul's talking about the customs of the time. Says, hey, when a boat comes into town, you leave your town, you walk out to the port, you meet them, and you walk back with them. And he's simply explaining that to them. And so he's not saying anything about end time stuff. Now, I might cut you off there, but I'm the guy who sometimes will debate with people about whether the rapture even happens.
Well, that's my point. Like, that is worth hearing. I think, I mean, I don't know. It's
I don't know if this is the direction we're going. It's not the direction.
Maybe it's not the rapture.
Maybe we say
no. We were going Middle East. We were going Middle East.
Yes,
let's go back.
Well, the only reason we went Middle East is because a lot of, you know, I grew up a Southern Baptist. My family's from Alabama, and you know, it was hell and brimstone growing up. From 3 years old, I knew I was going to hell because everything is a sin. You smile at the wrong person, that's a sin. Oh, you're lusting for. I mean, everything was just like crazy talk, and then you know, it fed fear into me, and I think fear is the ultimate tool against humanity. Because that's what humanity uses. That's what the church has used in many aspects of civilizing our society was fear.
Mm-hmm.
And what's going on in the Middle East right now, I think it's being utilized by the wrong people to promote the wrong message. Because killing people, I don't care how you sum it up, killing innocent people in order to kill guilty people your so-called guilty people, though, and those they haven't even been given due process, in so to speak. But killing innocent people to achieve a good goal, it's not a divine thing to me. You can't tell me, collateral damage is the cost of war. That's the cost of evil. Because, in this day and age where we have precision weapons, so to speak, I don't believe in that, unless I'm shooting, because I'm a precision weapon. Whenever I come at the range, I'm putting everything in the 10 ring, because that I'm nice like that. But I have no desire to remove somebody from this earth and let them meet their maker, because I don't want that on my soul. And government doesn't seem to care, because they want to default like they're not personally responsible for that person's death. This is the government that did that in order to protect the people. That doesn't fly with me. And you could call me a bleeding heart or whatever, but I just understand that self-defense is righteous. That is, I'm not going to dispute that any which way of any day of the week, that self-defense is righteous. But when you're killing innocent people to enact your will upon your enemy, that is not of a biblical or righteous nature, or whatever your Torah, your Quran, or I don't know if the Buddhists have a holy book. That's not humanity. Killing is not is an unnatural act to kill another human being, but there is a place for it. I'm not going to dispute that, so don't come at me. There is a place for that, because if you come into my house and your intent is to go after my daughter or wife or son, I'm going to dispatch you with every ounce of my being.
Self-defense.
Yeah, but killing in the name of a government and not caring about innocent people, innocent lives being lost in the process, that is not of a divine nature to me.
So I saw some tweet from Trump, or as a screenshot, could be totally fake, about him saying something about Iran, this, that, and the other threats. And I'm like, look, man, I'm not going to war for you or your family or your threats. You know what I mean? I already gave 9 years to the federal government here. I did 2 deployments. I'm not going again. I don't care unless they attack here, but I think I'll be much better here at home defending what we have here instead of going over there. You know what I mean? Like, and about you and the right to self-defense, and like nothing made me more libertarian than my deployment to Iraq. And driving convoys through people's neighborhoods of just some guys here. Like, if I was an Iraqi then, I would have been an insurgent. You know what I mean? Like, I'd be like, get out of my neighborhood.
I don't blame
you. What are you doing here? Yeah, but I was there. But I don't know that I was a full-on libertarian until I went there and I experienced it. You know what I mean? Like, the idea of like a bunch of foreigners driving their MRAPs or Humvees down our street with 50 cows on top, and they just get out and walk around. Now, granted, like me and my squad, my team, we had respect for them. We were there training the Iraqi police. We were there helping people that wanted to help their community. So I feel like, and I use this to justify me in my time in the military, I feel like our mission there was doing a good thing. I still don't think we should have ever been there. And we shouldn't go back, should not get involved with Iran. Like, the Middle East before we got involved was much better. Iran and Iraq were perfectly fine communities until we felt it appropriate to overthrow their governments because we wanted access to their oil. You know what I mean? Like, that's dumbing it down, but it's basically what it is. Like,
that is basically what it is. And like I said earlier, American foreign policy has led to a lot of this stuff. The term banana republic was coined by dull when America was intervening in Central America, and it's basically the same thing in the Middle East. You could call it a shell company, so to speak, because it's all about oil over there.
Yeah.
And that's why I support, um, oh, wait, hold on. Somebody's talking about me. Marcus is hold on. If I don't go through something like that every day, it doesn't make me feel like I'm doing my job. At any rate,
Hey,
American
let that
foreign
guy
policy.
know he's cussing in front of a pastor. He should feel bad about that.
Yeah, there's no remorse there.
Yeah. Well, when you make smooth brain Neanderthals bad, I feel that is a badge of honor. So anytime a smooth brain says something to me, shout out to you, Bennett. Whatever the hell you're doing with your life, congratulations. At any rate, American
I
foreign
just
policy.
love that he's calling you a racist. You are outnumbered by white people on the podcast. You know?
I like I told both of you, this is my affirmative action program to bring you on.
Hey, I got white friends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nobody can call me racist. I have 2 white friends with me right now. That's double the normal amount.
There's a third one, but for some reason he's distanced himself.
Remember, he's the racist.
Thank you to, this is one of our greatest friends ever, D. Because I love to say your salty tears seasoned my life. And I have a t-shirt that says that. And as a black man, I know about seasoning. So
hey.
Well, you both are from down south, so I'm gonna default you guys, and Michael's from Louisiana, so I'm gonna default you guys as properly seasoned people. Tub, you're kind of suspect. So
yeah, you're a little light skinned.
All right, hang on. There's so many things. Okay, so let me start with the fact that you can say that, but I'm originally from Connecticut.
Yeah.
So,
there you go. Never mind. He's not seasoned.
His
mayonnaise is spicy.
Yeah. So and it's so funny because if I try to go back to Connecticut, they consider me, the guy from the rebel from the South. But down here, I'm the Yankee. So I don't fit in anywhere. I got no place. Now,
and you're a libertarian.
And I'm the libertarian.
Yeah, you have a place here, brother.
Yeah, with the racist. Great.
So,
yeah. So now the racist now says I have a place with him. So now guess what? Now I'm going to be racist also.
Hey, there you
that's
go.
What they're going to say.
Coon train is coming.
Yes. Listen, we message that. That's the greatest post that you can put anywhere. Just anywhere.
Oh yeah. Oh,
All
so right. I'm not going to pretend anything. If you ask me a question, I'm going to be one. I feel like you just. Only thing you owe to anybody else is 100% honesty in your opinion. You don't owe them anything else. And I will tell you this. The worst threat to the black community, in my personal belief, is anti-black people. Because people like Candace Owens and Mark Robinson, they go out and talk about the ills of the black culture and our standing in this country, but they don't go to black people and tell them anything. They don't tell them, hey, this is what we need to do at all. And so when I see these people that aren't willing to go to the black community, and that's one thing I wanted to touch on when we're talking about libertarianism, we need to expand the tent, because right now you have the Mises Caucus that are pushing their agenda and everybody else, and you don't see that many segments or demographics of our society in the Libertarian Party as you should. You don't see 13-14% of the Libertarian Party black. You don't see 20-22% of the Libertarian Party Latino. Those are the stepping stones to being relevant once you can expand your tent Because, like I said in our end of the year episode last year, black people are naturally libertarians. We know the government is full of shit. We've seen how government programs have failed our society. We've seen how the government has gotten in the way of entrepreneurship with fees and all kinds of regulations to start a business, which is the only true path to self-reliance, and where you're not at the beholden of corporate interest and everything, is entrepreneurship and all those things. You don't see those things being brought forth by Democrats and Republicans. The only people that talk about that are libertarians.
I think that the black Democrats is a generational thing. It's passed on, it's passed on, it's passed on. And many times there's not a conversation of why. They accept basically the propaganda as it is. They just know that they're Democrat. I remember a few years back, I was in the dollar store right over here, not too far from my house. And I remember a guy was in there talking, he's talking about going in and voting. And I'm like, man, listen, I'm going to be honest with you. I love it when anybody's talking about going and voting. I don't care if you're not even voting for my guy. I just like being involved. So go be involved. And I remember he stood there and he goes, we vote Democrat no matter what. And then the one working behind thing is, that's right. And I'm like, oh, you're doing so well until right there. So right there. Now, here's the thing. So as proof of this that I saw firsthand. So when I was running here locally, one day it was right when we were getting ready to go put signs out. Remember, Eric, we went and put signs out the libraries and everything for early voting. So there's a library up here, and I was going to put my signs out there. My wife and I were going out there doing it, putting signs down. And there was this two young black guys. All right. They got out of a pickup truck and they're putting in signs for a guy that I'm running against, this white independent guy. And I said, hey, you support him? He goes, yeah. I said, why? He goes, well, he says he's going to do good things for the black community. I said, what's he going to do? Well, I haven't really looked that far into it. That's the first issue. Well, I'm going to do things for the black community. And you hear that stuff going on now. It's happening right now at the presidential level. I'm going to do things for the middle class. I'm going to do things for the black community. Okay, what are you going to do? So then I finally looked at him. I said, so you really don't know? He goes, no, I really don't know. I said, what if I told you that I was more of, I said, and I'm going to make this very simple. I said, what if I told you I wanted to see about making it where you don't get arrested for weed? And he kind of looks at me for a second. I said, hang on. I said, because you need to understand, you know what the biggest problem is with young black guys in the black community? I said, it's a police record. I said, you know what? I said, many times that police record is based off of simple possession. The dumbest things. I said, but once you get that, you'll do time in jail. It will affect the rest of your life. I said, can you imagine if we took the simplest thing and said, you're no longer going to go to jail for that? I said, how many people, and I asked her, how many people do you know in your own life that would benefit if they didn't have that simple record and just something like that? He goes, man, and he started talking about, you got a bunch of his friends have all been arrested. I go, exactly. I said, so the problem is instead of just accepting, well, they said they're going to do something for me. Good. Tell me what you're going to do. Tell me what your plan is. And let me tell you this right now. Libertarians do not do that. Libertarians do not go out and say, hey, here's what I can do. We're too busy fighting with each other. Okay. I said this all along. The first time I ever spoke before a room of libertarians, Eric was there when we were down at our state convention and we went there as candidates. We're getting our chance to speak. And the very first thing, because remember that, Eric, I didn't say anything about give me money or nothing. I got up there and I just unleashed on the libertarians. And the very first thing I said was, I said, guys, let me tell you this now. I said, libertarians have the best message and the worst messengers. And then I just spent we were supposed to have, 6 minutes? I took 18 minutes. And I just unleashed on them about, hey, this is where we fail. I'm sick of this. And I'm like, man. And the problem is nobody could, and I'm not boasting, but nobody could refute that.
Right.
Nobody could refute the fact that libertarians do a horrible job. Because here's what happens. Honestly, we keep talking about the things that we like. Well, listen, you know what's funny? I ran for office and never once said end the Fed. Never once. Never once mentioned it. Because you know what happens? People don't think about that. Yeah. Is it a problem? Yes. Do people care about that right now? No. People say, what can you do for me here, right at this level? And we don't focus on those things. When we would take the time to go, hey, here's where I'm at. Here's what I think locally. Here's my beliefs. Here's what I'd like to change. We don't do that, though. we get so caught up in our own topics, and then we only want to spew a bunch of information that we know, and then we want to be done. And if you don't agree with me, well, you're just an idiot, or or any of the terms, the normies, the terms that we throw out at them, and then we're done. So the reason why we don't reach the Black community or a number of the other communities is because we don't focus on getting out there and doing it. We'd rather sit in our own circles and fight.
This is my last comment for the night as we wrap this up, and then I'll hand it off to Eric before we close. But I'll tell you, one of the things why Black people don't vote for Republicans is the Republican support for the war on drugs and police. And when you talk about the Black community, even like a guy like me who grew up my parents did well for themselves. I grew up in the suburbs, and I want to say it might have been, it was just as bad or worse for Black people in the nice neighborhoods because, I remember walking home from school from football practice when I was a freshman and sophomore and being stopped by the police asking us where we're going, what we're doing. I remember when I got home from college one semester and I got pulled over 5 days in a row because I was driving my dad's car, which happened to be a Mercedes. It wasn't the most expensive one either, but 5 days in a row. And they said, you don't look like you belong around here. And that's how Black people associate that with Republicans. And, Democrats will sit here and give you their spill about how they actually care about you and all this other BS. And right now they're about to vote for a prosecutor who made sure Black men got records from weed, and those are those things. Job applications ask you about your criminal record, and they don't want the liability of hiring a person with a criminal record, even though it may have been nonviolent or whatever, and your prospects for economic success go down, combined with the fact, like I said earlier, the government doesn't teach you about entrepreneurship. They push you need to go to college to be successful. They don't push trade schools or anything else of that nature where you can learn how to be self-sufficient and not rely on the government for stuff. And then they say, hey, if you can't take care of yourself, here's some food stamps.
There it is.
Here's some other stuff. And then come to us and we'll take care of you.
We'll keep, and that's what I was just going to add to that right there. So what they do is once they lock up the young Black father, government comes in and says, well, listen, I know you're struggling now, so I can give you food stamps. I can get you on this program and that program. That now what they've done, they separated the father and they've made the mom relying on government. So now the new daddy in the house is government.
Right.
And so what is she going to do? Anybody who keeps promising her more stuff to take care, because she wants to take care of her family. And anybody who keeps promising her more of that stuff is the one who's going to win. And the problem is neither the party can pull that away now. It's done. Because as soon as you pull that away, you're done. You that's political suicide at that point. And so all we keep doing now is keep giving and giving. Government separates them, and then government becomes the new daddy.
Yeah. Eric, and your those are my closing remarks. Eric, you have any closing remarks?
Tub, it's great to have you. I'm glad that Marcus finally sought you out.
That's what you said the other day.
He asked me to, and I was like, yeah, man, I'll get around to it, and I never did.
Well, I just want to say this. If it wasn't for me, like I always tell Spike Cohen, you guys wouldn't be where you are today.
You're right. I wouldn't be on this podcast if it wasn't for you.
I would not be here right now.
If a Black man hadn't stepped up and brought you people, you two people up with me to the higher
crazy. It's kind of crazy. Marcus is paying reparations before us.
Yeah. So I just want you to know you both owe your complete and utter existence here in America.
All right, I'm
the Libertarian Kingmaker.
Wait a minute,
I thought these were my closing remarks.
Well, you kind of led me into a segue into why you should be thankful. But go ahead.
Shout out to Michael White, MWforLiberty.com. Go there, give some money. I am going to give him $200 tonight Y'all don't let me forget. 1776swag.com, Firearm Radio Network. I think that's a thing. Common Arms Trading Company, and Hornytown Gun and Ammo.
Woo-hoo!
That's it.
Tub, you have anything else?
All those things that Eric just said.
Okay.
All right.
And with that, I want to thank everyone that listened and watched tonight. You know, this is the only real libertarian podcast. The only real libertarian, myself, Marcus Matthews, joined by Eric Parker, Bold Liberty, and Tub.
Just Tub.
We can do it up, Tub. We want everybody in Florida to be safe. Georgia, you're up next. Let's make sure
then
you get
North Carolina.
And then North Carolina is getting a tropical storm, but let's make sure we keep our fellow Americans in prayer and within the safe confines of their own self-determination, because you have to step up to the plate as an American to make sure, don't rely on the government for anything. Make sure you take care of yourself first, because they're going to be there when seconds counts. They'll be there in minutes. And, you know, that's going to be even worse, because when the hours count in Florida and Georgia, they're going to be there in days. So I want you all to be safe and take care of yourselves. And we truly care here on the Black Powder Podcast. With that being said, as we end this, Eric, do you want to say the phrase we end this tonight?
I'll start it. Or this is the first, right?
This is the first time I've defaulted to you to say our closing phrase.
Here we go. Live free
or die.
There you go.
Thank you for watching and listening. Thank you, Tub.
All right.
Yep.